if I understand you, Marcus, you actually reflect back a lot. Well, when I'm thinking about sex, for example, I like this, this, and that. And then roll over back to her. What are you saying now? That calls dynamic and collaborative communication principles. We actually going to open up here. We're bowling back and forth. I ask her one question, I ask her a follow-up question. I relay back. So I'm telling her first by sharing that, yeah, but what actually turns me on? Oh, I don't normally say this, but you know what? What really turns me on is A, B, and C. It's just what it is. But I'm curious, when we are talking about this one now, what comes to your mind? You're dead quiet, right, Marcus? You're dead quiet.
Yeah,
Let her express herself fully. And once you're dead quiet and she, express herself fully, you're just going to sit there, wait, and look at her. And that is what you actually create the tension of like, okay, now I'm going to go for it. So it's like, I will not say that solid game doesn't work or something like that. I don't mean that. But what I'm saying is that, for example, like when I listen to Ross Jeffries and I listen to you, Marcus, you both have pretty similar strategies, actually. You listen to things and you try to get it into depth. On the other hand, Ross Jeffries is using the anchoring style and he's using the meta models in a different way that comes from NLP that I'm not 100% in line with. But with that said, you both are using like the depth and the perspectives of her to take things further. So I can imagine that many women told you, Marcus, that, wow, you're a guy that gets me and you're a guy that understands me like no one else. How many times have you heard that?
Oh, every single girl. Like, and I like that you said, you know me better than my friends. It's something a lot of women say too. Like, it's like, damn, I haven't told anyone this, like no one. I thought this was like this taboo thing in my head. I've never told anyone that I want a guy to like speak down to me, for example. But I think like what I just realized is, and I think Giraffe mentioned this in the chat too, is I think we can all agree, we agree with calibrated escalation. You want to go as quick as you're able to go. So the question I asked Erik, and it sounds like he's nodding his head here, was if you could have sex within 3 hours, if you could have that magic wand, would you do it? He said yes. So the point here is you want to go as quick as you can go. Now, if it takes you 7 hours, you shouldn't go quicker than that. You shouldn't try to go for sex before she's ready. But if it only takes you 3 hours, then you should do that. And I think the difference here is what makes the girl ready and open and able. Now, it's not about screening for the girl. It's not about just opening a bunch of girls and waiting for someone that's like, yeah, I have a 400 lay count and I'm down. It's if I meet a virgin that I'm really into, then it's about discovering exactly what's holding her back right now. And if it is that she's worried about sex is going to be painful, then I want to manage that. If I meet a girl and, for example, she's worried that guys won't see her again. So there's some girls that have been on like 3 dates, they've slept with the guy first night, and then guys never fucking see them again. If that's what's happening, then I want to reassure her like, hey, if I like you, I enjoy the sex, of course I want to see you again, right? There's a lot of things that might come up that you have to deal with. And I agree, we all agree with you on basically escalation that is calibrated. It's just the difference from my experience is when it comes to calibrating my game, I can have sex very quickly. When it comes for Erik calibrating his game, it sounds like the average is 7 hours. I think that's the difference there is the mechanism that's causing the girl to be a little bit more open, more early.
So let me clarify something. I do believe if you're going for fast escalation, at least try to be calibrated about it. I think we all agree that we don't want friction. The best way to get over an objection is to not get the objection in the first place, right? And that's from being calibrated. We don't want to do a bunch of objection handling, okay? But I don't agree that we should be moving to sex as quickly as possible. There's this fallacy in the community that you don't really know a woman until you've had sex with her. Or once you have sex with her, you take away her most powerful bargaining chip or whatever. Look, women walk away from marriages where they have children and they've had sex hundreds and thousands of times, okay? We're not putting them under a spell with our wand. And I'm not talking about a proverbial wand here, okay? So this idea that we should go to sex as quickly as possible, I don't agree with. I like to think of escalation as a window. As soon as that window cracks open, I'm not diving through it right away. I'm waiting until that window opens all the way. I'm maybe even letting it hover open a little bit. And then I'm passing seamlessly through the window. You can, yeah, Marcus, let me clarify, Marcus, I do believe that you have probably highly refined a style of game where you can get that window to open quick, you can pass through it smoothly, and you don't get a lot of friction. And I believe that you're getting results from it. I just don't think the majority of women have such a fast open on their window.
I'll
I get that
quickly
you also have the
say,
window for me.
I'll just quickly say, when it comes to using your magic wand, you can dignitize her. That's the good word to use. Anyway, continue.
Nice.
True. I
Nice
mean, there's a
humor.
lot of advantages for having sex. I think we can't ignore these. And
Yes,
to kind of
it is. It's
and to kind of
compelling.
insinuate that yes, sure, the very extreme version of this is like you will never understand a woman at all until you have sex with her. But there is a level of truth to that, right? Sexual compatibility is incredibly important in dynamics between men and women. And I think that is something that's important to test. Like the whole idea of waiting to marry to have sex, like it is a religious ideology, I think is really bad for a relationship because yes, you are missing out on oxytocin when you have sex. You are missing out on the girl feeling vulnerable and sharing that with you. I always tell guys is you know, you want to build a connection with a girl, you want to be emotional with a girl. The time that the girl is the most emotional with you and is the most vulnerable with you is when she's taking off her clothes and having sex with you and being put in a position like that. And then afterwards, they're laying down with you after you've experienced this roller coaster together. She's had incredible pleasure and now you're chatting. That is what I want to get to as soon as possible. Now, if you're just having like really shitty sex or something, they're probably not. But if you're doing this in an optimal way, yes, it's going to create a lot of good dynamics between you and the girl.
Sex is a peak experience, and it is definitely a highly compelling, you know, when you can hook up with a woman, especially if you can hook up with her quickly and it's all calibrated and everything, that can be compelling, but it's not the end all be all. It's the lead up to the sex, right? It's the lead up to the sex. Here's another one for you, Marcus, that you probably disagree with. When you have sex with a woman the first time, this is not the time to give her 5 or 6 orgasms. Like you said in a previous call, correct me if I'm wrong, that you'll say to a girl, I'll bet these guys can't even give you 1 orgasm, let alone 5 or 6. I'm not trying to give the girl 5 or 6 orgasms on the first time having sex.
Why not?
Because I'm more interested in calibrating to her mood and her emotion. Okay. If the woman is open to really, you know, dominant, kinky sex, or if she really wants to get down to business right on night 1 and she wants it to be, you know, that style of sex, great. But I'm more interested in making it, you know, I'm interested in the totality of the experience. So usually we get to rougher, more dominant sex, you know, after a few rounds. The first round, I'm making it more calibrated to what she wants.
Okay, but what you said calibrated to what she wants. How do you know what she wants?
I mean, so first of all, I can usually just sense it based on experience, right? So I can sense I can sense sort of where she wants things to be. And then I can also ask, obviously, I ask for consent. I'm not going to just start roughhousing.
Okay, how do you ask for consent?
Can I go harder?
Okay, so you're having sex with a girl and then
I'll say, can I go harder?
I'm trying to understand this. So yeah, I'm just picturing myself. So like I'm having sex with this girl, I'm on top, and then I look at her and say, hey, can I go harder?
If I can't sense that she wants me to go harder, if I'm not 100% sure that she wants me to go harder, I will ask for consent to go harder. I'll say, can I go harder?
Okay. If I'm a girl, and I've got like feedback off girls on this, right? If I'm a girl, there's quite a lot that do like the idea of dominance, that do like the idea of masculine. I agree. There's some that prefer it like sensual and slow, and that's an important conversation to have too. And maybe they want like more of a tantric feel where it is like some more eye contact and it's like sensual and romantic. That's cool. But majority of girls are going to want it a little bit more dominant. And the problem with this idea is I'm just going to start having sex and I can kind of just sense it. You can't sense if a girl wants to be choked 100% of the time, and you don't want to do that without knowing. You can't.
If you play a solid game,
no. Listen,
if you play solid game, you can get a sense for what she's into. And if you can't, then you just ask.
You can get a sense, but not 100% sense. You don't want to be, I'm 90% sure this girl wants me to slap her across the face, so I'm going to do it. You don't want to be like, I'm 95% sure this girl wants me to choke her, so I'm going to do it.
Of course.
Number one,
agreed.
It's really, yeah, so you have to ask. You have to get into this. Now, if you're having sex with a girl and then starting to ask these questions, it's going to take away from the experience because now she's thinking, this guy doesn't know what I want. He has to ask, especially that way. And you can't have like an...
If I say to her, can I go harder, baby?
Yes. Exactly.
I've
Now,
never had
there's
a girl say
ways
that she didn't like it.
they're not going to tell you, right? But there's ways you can go about this, which you can use dirty talk, right? If you are in the moment and this is what you're relying on, there's probably like slightly better ways to do this. So you could look at her and start dirty talking, right? Hey, you fucking love that, don't you? Oh my God, I can see it on your fucking face. She's like, yes. All right. Then you can whisper in her ear, listen, you're going to do exactly as I say. Do you understand? She says, yes. Tell me exactly what you want right now. You're allowed two words, harder or slower. All right. Like there's ways you could probably manage that, but it's much easier to just have that conversation beforehand instead of saying, like, I will take it slow at the beginning and then wait a few times until I figure out what she wants. It's better than, I agree, just going for it without asking. But the optimal way, again, going back to what's optimal, is having that conversation because I guarantee you, most girls, when I speak to them, they say this. They're like, when I'm with most guys, I feel like they're just a little bit too soft and they don't go for it. They don't know what they want. They always have to like ask during sex. So yeah, I think like having that conversation before in a very like calibrated authority type of way is going to be more beneficial.
I'm not saying that I've never had sexual conversations with women before sex, but generally speaking, when I'm running my game, especially if the woman is, on my level, there's no need to talk about sex. We know it's going to be good when we get there. We can tell by the way that we're bouncing energy off of one another. There's no need to talk about her fetishes. All I have to do is calibrate to the moment. And then when we hook up, it all comes out there. And if I'm ever unsure, I can ask in the moment, can I go harder, baby? She says, yes. And
I'm not
tell
saying,
me,
just to be
and then
clear,
I'll say,
I'm not saying it's
tell me
bad.
if I go too hard. And they do like it. I would say, again, I don't like generalizing, but I would say the majority of women do like it when it's rough and dominant and so forth. So, my goal is to kind of always push things to her comfort threshold and simultaneously my desires. But I never, especially with physical escalation, her comfort threshold is
Yeah,
more
so I'm not
important than
saying the
my
sex is bad.
desires.
I'm not saying like these girls are leaving and being like, oh my God, worst sex. But I'm saying like if you want a girl to be like, that was the greatest sex of my life, like I'm curious because I've never had this. I've never been able to like 100% accuracy like pick up a fetish. Like I'm curious, like what type of like kink have you picked up from a girl without talking about it and just off vibes? Like I can say like there's some girls that seem really bratty and I'm like, oh, they probably like me talking down to them. But like with 100% accuracy, like I don't think I could ever say that. Like, I'm curious, like, what you're looking for, what you pick up on, where you can just like feel out a kink.
No, so I mean, I'm not going for anything super bold without permission, right? We're having a lot of fun. It moves to the bedroom eventually, and usually I'm just having kind of a standard incremental style of sex with her where it's kissing, it's foreplay, it's touching, I'm slowing things down. There's oral sex maybe, right? And then when we get to penetration, it's all calibration. And when you draw it out a bit, you can sense where her comfort levels are. And if I want to start going harder, or if I get the sense that she wants me to go harder, I'll simply say, can I go harder, baby? Right. And then
Okay,
I'll
well,
say,
I think there's a
and then
difference
and then
between
most of the
like,
time, and then most of the time she'll say yes. And then I'll say, tell me if I go too hard. Or if I want to get even kinkier than that on night one, I may ask her, can I do this? Can I do this? Right. Things that I would blush to say on camera. I'm trying not to make my mother blush. Right. I have a brand of coaching that I want my mother to approve of, that I
okay, yeah,
want my
I'm
daughter
not,
to approve of if I have a daughter someday. So
okay,
I don't
listen,
want
if
to
I
get
have a
into the
daughter one day,
specifics of what I'll actually say, but I do
that's okay.
ask for permission. And again, typically on night one, I'm much more interested in the totality of the sexual experience, not in showing her my tongue twister, spinning back kick, whatever. It's not the time to bust out all the moves.
Okay,
Have porno like sex with her on the third time or fourth time, not on night one.
okay, it's very clear, like, and there's nothing wrong with this, okay? But it's very clear, like, it sounds like just pretty vanilla-ish standard sex, which is fine, right? If that's what you're into and that's like you're just like, hey, this is the only thing I want to do.
Straw man argument.
Okay, excuse me. What do you disagree that that
I
sounds
do. I
like
think that
more standard vanilla sex?
you're saying that I'm saying I'm into vanilla sex, and I never said that. That you're building arguments out of straw and then attacking those arguments, and you've done it
Okay.
multiple
To
times.
to me, this sounds like very vanilla. Okay. The idea that you can be a little bit more harder with her, like maybe you like, I don't know, fuck her a little bit harder. to me, that's not like kinky or anything, or meeting her fantasy. Like most girls aren't just like, oh, when I'm like getting penetrated with a guy, I just wanted to like do it a little bit harder. Usually when I'm talking about like kinks and like fantasies and stuff here, it might be the girl like, to pick extreme examples, like I want to be peed on, or like, you know, I really like feet.
Marcus,
like,
that's not extreme.
With, like most girls. Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, there you go. But what you'll find with like most girls is like, I want to be tied up, I want to be handcuffed, I want a guy that chokes me, I want to be slapped, I want to be hit, I want to be told like I'm a dirty whore.
Yeah,
like it's these things, and
most chicks don't want to be handcuffed on night one, man. Within a couple hours.
That's where you're wrong.
Most chicks
Again,
do not, and pardon me for using the term.
Wrong.
Listen, most women on night one, within a few hours of meeting a guy, are not down to be handcuffed. I'm sorry, brother.
Okay, in your experience, and that's fine. But you got to remember, your experience is filtered through the lens of never asking the girl, right? You're vibing with her, so you're never going to find this out.
Straw man. This is a straw man again. I never
keep saying straw man. You literally
said that I never ask. I said I usually don't.
Sorry.
I usually focus on having fun.
What percentage of the time are you asking, Mr. Strawman? What percentage of the time are you asking? What percentage of the time are you asking?
So I would say this. Probably 33. No. Let me finish. Let me say my complete answer. Okay. 33% of the time, I'm going to kind of be a little bit more overtly sexual. The majority of the time, though, sex is implied. We're having fun, man.
What is the percentage of the time
we're laughing, we're vibing? We know that sex is in the future at a certain point.
I'm going to ask the same question after you keep babbling it. What percentage of the time are you asking?
Am I asking what her kinks are, man? That's the second or third time.
So when I say you're not asking and you're vibing, it's not a straw man, correct?
When what?
So when I say you're not explicitly asking the girl and you're more vibing with her, that's not a straw man, right?
Fair enough. The majority of the time, I'm not asking her explicitly what her kinks are before having sex. I'm going to have sex with her a few times. Then I'm going to find out what her kinks are.
Perfect, right? So it's not a straw man when I said you typically vibe with the girl and you're not asking her. So if you're not asking her, you're not going to get girls saying like, when you're vibing, they're not going to suddenly be like, hey, can you please tie me up? Right? And you're not going to get that vibe off her at all. It has to, the only way this happens is that if you have this conversation with her and you lead it this way and you find out what she likes, because this is why it works so well. She will say, no one has ever asked me this. I've never been able to tell anyone this, right? Ever. Even my best friend, I haven't told this because there's usually a taboo around it. So yeah, I think like if you're just vibing, then no, that's going to be your experience. I'm not like disagreeing with you. Your experience is that these guys don't ask. These
amateur hour, brother. Amateur hour. Here's the real test. Here's the real test. Let's show this interview to a group of women and ask which guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Oh, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do because it. Here's the debate.
Bring a random assortment of 10 women
remember,
on. Let's
Marcus,
go through this conversation. Let's ask who they think knows more about the bedroom.
Marcus, let's remember what the debate is about.